Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine your business is like a physical building,
Right.
and you spend an absolute fortune on the strongest locks money can buy. I mean, you put up state-of-the-art security cameras, you wire up high-end alarm systems on every single window, and you even hire guards to patrol the perimeter.
Sounds pretty secure.
Right, you feel incredibly secure. But then, every single morning, an employee walks in, props the front door wide open with a heavy brick, and just lets total strangers wander inside the lobby, hoping they all have good intentions.
Yeah. That would be a
It
nightmare.
sounds totally absurd, right?
Yeah, it would
But in
be.
the digital world, that is exactly what unsecured email and web browsing look like.
It really is. I mean, it is the single biggest vulnerability in modern networks right now.
Yeah.
Today's deep dive is zeroing in on CIS Critical Control 9, which is email and web browser protections. And the reason this specific document matters so much to you, whether you are managing a sprawling enterprise or just trying to keep your own personal data safe, is that attackers have fundamentally shifted their strategies.
They're not doing it the hard way anymore.
Exactly. They realize that breaking through a modern firewall requires immense effort, time, and really sophisticated tools. It's just the hard way in. So the easy way in is hacking human nature.
Wow, hacking human nature.
Yeah, they bypass those expensive digital locks by tricking a user into clicking a bad link or opening a malicious attachment. They're essentially asking you to just hold the door open for them.
Okay, but I want to push back on that premise a little bit, though, because when we talk about the user being this vulnerable front door, a lot of people are probably thinking they've already outsourced that problem entirely.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if I go out and buy a premium, enterprise-grade service like Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace for my business, I'm buying from trillion-dollar tech giants.
Right.
Doesn't that software just have all this security built in automatically? Like, why is a dedicated proactive framework like Control 9 even necessary if I'm already paying a premium vendor for their platform?
Well, this raises an important question, and the source material actually highlights this exact assumption as one of the most common and, frankly, dangerous mistakes organizations make.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you are entirely correct that those major platforms have incredible world-class security capabilities built into them.
Yeah.
But having the capability is very different from having it activated and configured for your specific environment.
Oh, okay.
Out of the box, software vendors prioritize usability over strict security.
Because, I mean, if they lock it down too tightly by default, legitimate emails get blocked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Files won't open, and their customer support lines just get completely flooded with angry users who, just want to do their jobs.
Right. They just want the thing to work.
Precisely. They err on the side of frictionless communication.
Yeah.
But that gap between convenient defaults and actual security, that is exactly where the attackers live.
Wow.
If you rely purely on the defaults, you are leaving massive architectural gaps.
Yeah.
For example, default configurations often allow almost any attachment type to come through. Yeah, and they operate without aggressive web filtering. They might even let users maintain local admin rights.
Yeah, local admin rights. So that means if a user accidentally downloads malware, that malware instantly has the privileges to install itself deep into the operating system.
You hit the nail on the head. And they almost always leave advanced email authentication turned off, basically because setting it up requires DNS configuration that's specific to your domain.
So we really can't just set it and forget it.
No, not at all.
Control 9 is essentially telling us we have to stop passively accepting whatever traffic hits the network and move to a much more proactive inspection model.
Yeah, and the source uses a really effective analogy here. Think about airport security.
Okay.
Think about how the TSA operates. They don't assume every single passenger walking through the sliding glass doors is a threat, but crucially, they don't assume anyone is safe either.
Right. Everyone gets checked.
Exactly. Every single person and every single bag goes through the scanner before they get anywhere near the airplanes.
Oh, I see.
Control 9 argues that email protection needs to work the exact same way. Every single email and link must be mathematically inspected before it ever reaches the user's inbox.
Because we can't wait for the user to open it.
Right. We cannot wait for the user to decide if it looks suspicious. The scanner has to make that determination first.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the source material grounds this in a scenario that I think pretty much everyone listening has encountered. The classic invoice past due email.
Oh, yeah. The classic.
Let's look at how this plays out when a company relies on those default settings versus when they have that airport scanner in place.
Good, let's do it.
Picture an employee on a busy Tuesday morning. They have a million things to do, and an email drops in marked urgent invoice past due.
Always urgent.
Always. And it looks perfectly legitimate. Maybe it even uses a vendor's actual logo, and it has a ZIP file attached. The employee panics, thinks they missed a payment, and they just open the attachment. In an unprotected environment, what is actually happening beneath the surface in those next few milliseconds?
Well, the moment they double-click that ZIP file, a payload executes. Usually, it's a tiny script that silently reaches out to the attacker's command and control server on the internet.
Without the user seeing anything.
Yep. It reaches out, downloads the actual ransomware, and begins running it. The user might just see a blank screen for a second and think the file was broken.
Oh, wow.
But in the background, the ransomware is indexing the company's shared network drives. It's encrypting every customer file, database, and financial record it can find.
That is terrifying.
Within minutes, operations just grind to a complete halt, the screens lock up with a ransom note, and the business is in a full-blown crisis.
The most frustrating part is that the employee wasn't being malicious.
No, they were just trying to do their job.
Exactly.
Okay, let's rewind that tape. If that company had fully implemented Control 9, how does that exact same Tuesday morning play out?
It's completely different. The employee never even sees the email. Never sees it at all.
Nope. Under Control 9, when that message hits the company's perimeter, the modern email gateway catches it. The gateway doesn't just look at the file name either. It physically intercepts the attachment and performs what we call sandboxing or detonation.
Wait, detonation?
Yeah.
That sounds intense. How does a gateway safely detonate a file without blowing up its own server?
That's the cool part. It creates a micro virtual machine. It's essentially a fake, isolated computer inside the server that mimics a normal user's laptop.
Oh, I see.
It drops the attachment into this fake environment and opens it. The software then just watches to see what the file tries to do.
So it's basically baiting the malware.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It asks, does it try to modify system registries? Does it attempt to quietly connect to an unknown IP address in a foreign country? Does it start trying to encrypt local files?
And if it does?
If the gateway observes any of those malicious behaviors, it instantly destroys the virtual machine, flags the file as malware, and just deletes the email.
And the employee sitting at their desk is completely oblivious to this entire digital bomb squad operation happening in the background.
Exactly. The technology removes the burden of choice entirely. But, we have to remember, attackers know we use sandboxes now.
Right. They adapt.
So the threats are evolving. Some malware is written with time bombs, where it waits hours before doing anything malicious.
Hoping the sandbox will get bored and pass it through.
Yep, hoping the timer runs out.
Yeah.
This is why gateways also use massive threat intelligence feeds. They're checking if the email is coming from a newly registered domain or a server known to send spam.
Okay, that covers the dangerous attachments, but what happens when the attackers don't send an attachment or a link at all?
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking of business email compromise, or BEC. That's when you get an email that just says, hey, it's the CEO. I'm stuck in a meeting. Can you wire $50,000 to this new vendor?
Right, right.
It's just plain text. How on earth does the scanner catch that if there's literally no malware to detonate?
What's fascinating here is how the technology has to shift. It goes from looking at code to analyzing human behavior.
Really?
Yeah. To stop BEC, modern scanners use natural language processing and machine learning. They analyze the metadata and the actual context of the message.
So they read the tone.
Essentially, yes. The scanner asks, has this user ever emailed this specific address before? Is the reply to address slightly different from the from address?
Oh, like changing an I to a 1 or something.
Exactly. And it checks if the text contains aggressive urgency markers. Things like wire transfer, immediately, or don't tell anyone.
The classic red flags.
Right. It built a baseline of normal communication patterns for your company. And when an email drastically deviates from that baseline, it gets quarantined, even if it's just plain text.
Wow, that is incredibly smart. So what does this all mean for the other half of the equation? We've built a really solid defense for the mail coming in, but Control 9 is also about web browsers.
Yeah, that's the flip.
If email is the threat coming to your house, the web browser is you actively walking out the front door into a bad neighborhood.
That's a great way to put it.
Let's talk about how we lock that down, starting with the browser itself. Does this mean I can't install that highly rated third-party browser extension that automatically hunts down coupon codes for me while I shop online?
You really shouldn't. I mean, especially not on a machine you use for anything sensitive.
Bummer.
The source material emphasizes a very strict philosophy here.
Yeah,
Less software means fewer attack paths.
makes sense.
When you install a browser extension, you are usually granting it very broad permissions to read and modify data on the websites you visit. Under the hood, extensions interact with the document object model, or DOM, of the web page.
Meaning it can see the text fields I'm typing into?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That coupon extension might save you $10, but if it's poorly coded or outright malicious, it could also be silently logging your keystrokes. Yeah, capturing your session tokens or reading your passwords before they even get encrypted. Control 9 stresses the necessity of disabling unauthorized plugins, stripping out legacy features like outdated Java applets, and strictly limiting the browser to just what is necessary for work.
So you are intentionally shrinking your attack surface.
Yes.
I can see how that stops a rogue piece of software I install on purpose. But what about the websites themselves? Let's say I click a link in a seemingly normal search result and it tries to take me to a malware hosting site.
Okay.
The source talks about DNS filtering. How does the system intercept my click fast enough to stop the page from loading?
To understand that, we need to look at how DNS, the domain name system, actually works. When you type in a website name, your computer doesn't know where that is.
Right.
It has to ask a DNS resolver to translate that human-readable name into an IP address, and that takes a few milliseconds. DNS filtering steps right into that tiny window of time.
So instead of just looking up the address and handing it over, the filter checks the address against a threat list first.
Yes, but it's checking against massive, dynamically updated intelligence feeds. If you click a link that points to a known phishing site or a command and control server, the DNS resolver simply refuses to provide the IP address.
Just says no.
Just says no. It either drops the request entirely or redirects you to a safe block page.
That's wild.
The connection to the malicious server literally never happens because your computer is never given the coordinates to find it.
So it's not just a warning sign on the road. It's like someone went into your GPS and deleted the coordinates to the dangerous neighborhood entirely. You couldn't drive there even if you wanted to.
That's a perfect analogy. But, we also have to account for legitimate websites that get compromised.
Right, because good sites go bad.
Exactly. You might visit a totally normal local news site, but an attacker has managed to inject malicious JavaScript into their advertising banner. Modern websites are incredibly dynamic. They execute code directly in your browser.
Which means the attacker could try to launch a cross-site script or silently hijack my computer's processing power to mine cryptocurrency just by me loading the page.
Right. You didn't even click anything else.
Yeah.
And this is where the browser's internal security architecture becomes really critical. Control 9 dictates that browsers must be configured to enforce strict boundaries.
Like what?
Things like site isolation. This forces different websites to run in separate background processes. It ensures that malicious code on one tab can't just reach over and steal the memory contents of your banking session in another tab.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, we've covered the incoming attachments, the browser extensions, and the malicious websites. But I want to circle back to something we sort of glossed over earlier.
Sure.
When an email comes in claiming to be from a trusted partner or a bank, how does the system actually verify that the sender isn't just a criminal wearing a digital mask? The source mentions an alphabet soup of protocols, SPF, DSKI, and DMR.
Yeah, the dreaded alphabet soup.
Right.
But these three protocols are really the backbone of email authentication.
Yeah.
They are how we mathematically prove identity on the internet. Let's break them down.
Okay, let's do it.
SPF, or Sender Policy Framework, acts like a strict guest list. A company publishes a public DNS record that lists the exact IP addresses of the servers that are legally authorized to send emails on their behalf.
Okay.
If an email arrives claiming to be from, say, Bank of America, but the IP address sending it isn't on Bank of America's public guest list, the receiving server knows it's a forgery.
Okay, I can see a flaw there, though.
Okay,
If
go ahead.
SPF is just checking the server's IP address against a list, what happens if an email gets forwarded? Like, if I send a legitimate email to a client and they forward it to their boss, the server doing the forwarding isn't on my original guest list.
Yeah.
Wouldn't SPF flag that legitimate forwarded email as a fake?
Bingo. Which is exactly why SPF alone isn't enough and why we need the second layer.
Oh,
That's DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail.
Okay, so what does DKIM do?
DKIM doesn't care about the IP address. It cares about the content. It acts like a cryptographic wax seal.
A wax seal. I like that.
Yeah. When your server sends an email, it uses a private mathematical key to generate a unique signature based on the contents of the message. and it attaches it to the header.
So when the receiving server gets the email, it uses the sender's public key to check if the wax seal is intact.
Yes, exactly.
If the math checks out, it proves the email really came from you and wasn't tampered with in transit, even if it was forwarded through 10 different servers.
Exactly. So SPF is the guest list, DKIM is the cryptographic wax seal. And that brings us to DRC, which is the policy layer.
DRRC, right?
DRC stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. It is basically the instruction manual you publish to the rest of the world.
An instruction manual.
Yes. It says if you receive an email claiming to be from our domain and it fails either the SPF guest list check or the DKIM wax seal check, here is exactly what you should do with it.
Oh, so it gives them rules.
Right. You can instruct the receiving server to quarantine the message in the spam folder or reject it entirely so it never even arrives. Implementing these tools is crucial because it stops criminals from spoofing your company's domain to trick your own employees or your clients.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It creates this invisible mathematical shield around your company's identity.
It really does.
But the source material also mentions a defense layer that isn't invisible at all. It talks about the power of the just-in-time warning. Like, instead of silently blocking something or silently allowing it, the system intentionally throws up a massive interactive warning screen for the user.
Yes, it's about breaking the psychological autopilot.
I find this fascinating because we've all been there. You're clicking through a dozen tasks, you hit a link, and suddenly your browser background turns bright red with a message saying the site's security certificate is invalid.
Very jarring.
It is. It's the digital equivalent of an emergency brake on a train. It forces the user to stop, read, and usually perform two distinct conscious actions to bypass it. You know, like clicking advanced settings and then proceed anyway. It forces you to actually think about what you are doing.
It's a vital safety net because technology will never be 100% flawless. Sometimes a legitimate internal site has an expired certificate, and a human does need to make a judgment call to proceed.
Right, but they shouldn't just click blindly.
Exactly. They should never make that call blindly while rushing. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see how elegantly the entire CIS framework fits together. Control 9 doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right, it's an interlocking system.
Think about Control 1, which focuses on maintaining a strict inventory and protecting the actual physical devices users are working from. Or Control 8, which is all about logging web and email activity so you have a forensic audit trail for investigations if a sophisticated threat does slip through.
Where does Control 9 fit?
Control 9 sits right in the middle of this ecosystem. You need the device secured, you need the logs, but Control 9 is the active shield that drastically reduces the likelihood of attackers gaining that initial foothold. It keeps the front door locked.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of what we've been unpacking today. If there's one big takeaway from this deep dive into Control 9, it's this. Yes, your firewalls are incredibly important. Your antivirus software is vital. Your data backups are absolutely non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
But for the vast majority of organizations, the greatest existential risk isn't an attacker using brute force to break in. It is someone on your team being politely invited in through a convincing email or a malicious website.
That is the hard truth of modern network defense. Preventing a bad click through proactive inspection is always easier and, frankly, astronomically cheaper than trying to recover your data from a ransomware operator.
So before we wrap up, we want to make sure you have some highly actionable steps. The source lays out a rapid-fire rundown of quick wins.
Yes, let's give them the playbook.
If you are looking at your own setup right now, wondering where to start, here's what you do. First, go into your email platform and enable advanced phishing protection. It's usually a configuration toggle or a modest license upgrade, but just do it.
Definitely.
Second, configure your gateway to block executable attachments and other high-risk file types outright. I mean, your accounting department has no business receiving .exe files anyway.
Exactly right.
Third, implement DNS filtering at the network level to block known malicious sites before the connection is even made. Fourth, standardize your company on one supported, automatically updated web browser and strip out unnecessary extensions.
And the big one.
And finally, implement that SPF, DKIM, and DMARC architecture while providing ongoing, regular phishing awareness training to your team.
Taking just those steps will eliminate a massive percentage of the background radiation of cyber attacks targeting your organization every single day.
The front door gets a lot heavier, and those airport scanners get a lot sharper.
They sure do.
But I want to leave you with a final thought today, something that builds on this entire philosophy.
Okay.
The core mandate of Control 9 is using technology to remove the burden of perfect decision-making from the human being. We want the software to catch the bad guys so the user doesn't have to.
Right.
But as artificial intelligence gets better and better, as it learns to generate hyper-personalized, contextually flawless phishing emails that don't use bad links or suspicious attachments, and can just seamlessly sneak past those automated behavioral filters, it raises a really fascinating question.
Where are we headed?
Exactly. Will the ultimate safety net eventually have to revert back to human skepticism? Or will our digital airport security scanners simply need an AI upgrade of their own to fight fire with fire?
It is an arms race, and the landscape is shifting incredibly fast.
It really is.
On a
Something to ponder the next time you're tempted to click on a past due invoice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay safe out there.